Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT12, and BT12 offers us lots of new and powerful tools to be able to build and iterate on some new and existing decks. And today's deck I'm going to be taking a look at is going to be a brand new iteration on the Red Hybrids deck. So Red Hybrids is, well, your core hybrid style deck where you're trying to set up your tamers and then utilize the hybrid's unique mechanic to be able to digivolve on top of the tamers, basically having the tamers act like their own pseudo breeding area, really reducing the amount of interaction the opponent has while you build up really quickly into a high level Digimon to be able to have some quick and responsive ways to be able to not only just aggress onto the opponent, but to be able to react to what the opponent is potentially doing. So with all that said and done, let's just dive right into the deck profile. Starting off with the Digitama, I am going to be running 5 Digitamas for this. You don't have to run 5 Digitamas, but the goal of the Digitamas is just to try to help us draw some cards, and the one copy of Gurimon is allowing us to do that as long as our Digimon has 6000 DP or more. But the easier Digitama to get some card draw with that has a little bit more synergy for the deck is going to be the main Digitama, and that's going to be the 4 copies of Yokomon. So our Digimon does have to get deleted, and we need to have a red tamer on the field to be able to get that card draw. Next, on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Flamemon. So this is the BT4 Flamemon, and this is just one of the deck's main digging tools to try to make sure that we could try to find our parts and pieces. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of the BT6 Flamemon. So this is in here just for the inheritable ability to be able to give our higher stage Digimon the piercing ability, so that way we could try to deal as consistent of damage as we possibly can, while also having the availability to want to try to beat up the opponent's Digimon when the situation presents itself, so that way we could deal damage and delete their Digimon all in one go. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of the BT7 Flamemon. So the BT7 Flamemon is doing something very similar to the BT4 Flamemon, where it's just going to be another consistency tool, on top of the fact that it also has an inheritable ability where the other one doesn't. That's an on-delete ability, where we get to play a Takuya from our hand, so that way we have the ability to try to set up or replace the tamer depending on what the situation presents itself as. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of the brand new BT12 Flamemon. So this is another consistency tool, except instead of searching and trying to dig out specific parts and pieces, this is just allowing us to discard a hybrid to be able to draw 2, not only just setting up our trash because our tamer actually does want to try to utilize cards from the trash, at least the old Takuya does, and the fact that this card helps set that up nicely, while allowing us to draw generically, is the major appeal of this card, on top of the fact that he even has a nice inheritable ability to add some extra DP to our Digimon. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Bokomon. So Bokomon is fantastic for any hybrid style deck, and this deck is no different, being one of the best digging and searching tools, acting like the BT4 Flamemon, but better, on top of the fact that while this card is just passively sitting on the field, if we digivolve on top of our tamer, then we're going to be gaining 2 memory, so it allows us to make more powerful plays utilizing our hybrid mechanic. Next, on to the champions, I'm going to be running 3 copies of BurningGreymon. So this is the BT7 version of BurningGreymon, and there's just a lot of ways for us to potentially utilize this card, adding a lot of extra flexibility to how we could utilize some of our parts and pieces. So he could digivolve for 2 on top of a tamer, digivolve for 1 on top of a level 4, or the more expensive route, digivolving for 3 on top of a red level 3. And then his Wind Digivolving ability even comes with some nice removal on the opponent's low-level Digimon when we Digivolve them on top of another hybrid or on top of our main designated tamer of Takuya. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of the brand new BT12 version of Agunimon. So Agunimon has some decent flexibility on different ways we could digivolve him, where we could digivolve him for 1 on top of a BurningGreymon, 2 on top of a level 3, or 2 on top of our main tamer, which is Takuya. Then he also sports a nice on-delete ability, so if we need to be aggressive with this card, he's at least going to be replacing himself by allowing us to play a Flamemon from our hand suspended for free. Then on top of all of that, he does sport a nice inheritable ability for us to use, where it's an on-delete ability of allowing us to be able to play a Takuya from our hand for free. So if we Digivolved him on top of a Takuya, then Digivolved on top of this Agunimon, or just have the Agunimon in the inheritables because of one of our Takuya's setups, then that just allows us to be able to basically replace the Takuya that we just Digivolved on top of, so it has some good synergy at allowing us to be able to maintain a tamer on the field, which is very important for a hybrid-based deck. And then the last level 4 of the deck is going to be 4 copies of the brand new BT12 BurningGreymon. So again, it has almost the same levels of usability in terms of Digivolutions compared to the old one. This time the Digivolving for 1 isn't on any level 4 Digimon, and it's specifically on our Agunimons, but we still get a Digivolve for 3 on top of a level 3, and for 2 on top of a Takuya. Then he has a nice Wind Digivolving ability himself to be able to DP boost himself, so that way we could be more aggressive with this card and try to deal some pretty solid damage without fear of him getting deleted per se. Then on top of that, he has a nice inheritable ability that's also DP boosting our other hybrids and 10 warriors, so that way we could try to make them as strong as they possibly can as well. Next, on to the level 5s, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Aldamon. So this is the BT7 version of Aldamon, and this is the most important level 5 in the deck, just because it allows us to basically Digivolve for 1, as long as we're Digivolving him on top of a Digimon with a tamer in its Digivolution source. So this just allows us to easily Digivolve all the way up our chain. So if we just have a tamer sitting on the field, we could Digivolve for 2 into any of our hybrids, then Digivolve for 1 into this Aldamon, and then Digivolve again to be able to get into a fast level 6 Digimon. Then the benefits for utilizing this card is he becomes pretty aggressive himself, allowing him to be able to gain some extra DP when we Digivolve up into him, but more importantly, and the real pull and reason why we want to utilize this card is for his inheritable ability to allow our hybrids or 10 warriors to not activate the security effects of the opponent's option cards when we're attacking into them, so that way it makes our swings even safer, reducing the amount of things that we're actually afraid of in their security. And then the last level 5 Digimon of the deck is going to be another tech or flex spot. You don't necessarily need it to run this card, it just helps in certain situations. So I'm running 1 copy of the brand new BT12 Aldamon, just because he has an alternative way to be able to utilize our tamer to Digivolve into a level 5 to achieve that fast level 6 that we're trying to gain off of the old Aldamon. This one's just a little bit worse because it doesn't have as much upside, but it could still be a pretty aggressive card in its own right, just because its on-delete ability allows us to return a Takuya from our trash to our hand, which then allows us to have that Takuya in our hand to pair up with some of the other on-delete abilities to be able to then play said Takuya for free. Next, on to the level 6s, I'm going to be running 1 copy of the BT7 EmperorGreymon. So the BT7 EmperorGreymon is kind of a tech or flex spot. Again, this card isn't necessarily 100% needed for the deck. Most of the time, you're just going to try to utilize it as an alternative win condition, just because he has the Wind Digivolving ability of Blitz, and if the opponent is trying to block him and try to stop the damage that he could potentially deal, then his secondary ability just allows us to be able to gain a decent amount of memory and unsuspend this Digimon, so that way we could try to make a secondary follow-up attack, really de-incentivizing them from wanting to stop this EmperorGreymon, because we're just going to be able to extend and make more powerful follow-up plays. But as far as our primary level 6 Digimon, I'm going to be running 4 copies of the brand new EmperorGreymon from BT12. So there is some pros and cons to running either of them. This one is just going to be a little bit more useful generally, just to try to deal some decent damage as quickly as you possibly can, just because he natively has security attack +1. He's a little bit cheaper to Digivolve into, and we have ways to be able to DP boost him, so even though he's at 11,000 on base, most of the time he's not actually going to be swinging for 11,000. Then Digivolving up into him offers us some pretty decent removal, and even better removal if he has a red tamer in his Digivolution source, so that way we could actually utilize all of our DP gains to be able to delete a wide variety of different targets to try to remove whatever threat we need to that's stopping him from wanting us to be able to attack into their security to deal some decent damage. Then he also has a really decent on delete ability when he eventually does get deleted by allowing us to play a Takuya from our hand or trash for free, again having easy setups at being able to replay our tamers so we could use them over and over again. And then the last Digimon of the deck and only level 7 of the deck is going to be one copy of Omnimon. So this is the BT5 Omnimon, and this is still just one of red and blue's at best generic level 7s, just because the Blitz paired up with the Unsuspend just makes it a really good alternative win condition. Next, on to the Tamers, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Takuya. So this is the BT7 version of Takuya, and this is a really good card just because it allows us to warp Digivolve into our EmperorGreymon right from our Tamer, by allowing us to place 5 hybrids from our trash underneath this tamer, so that way we could kind of pick and choose which inheritable abilities we want to try to gain, and it rewards us for having cards in our trash, which combos really nicely with something like the brand new Flamemon that's actively allowing us to be able to put cards into our trash to be able to have faster and easier setups into utilizing this Takuya. Then on top of that, this Takuya is offering a nice DP boost to our Digimon and some extra security attack plus when they're big enough, so it just allows our Digimon to hit as hard as they possibly can. And then the last tamer of the deck is going to be 4 copies of the brand new Takuya from BT12. So this Takuya is going to be the deck's dedicated memory fixing tamer, so that way we're always going to be at 3 memory to be able to make our plays as efficient as we possibly can. Then, just like the old Takuya, he does have an inheritable ability to try to help DP boost our Digimon and reward our Digimon for being over 10,000 DP, so that way we can gain more memory when we deal damage to the opponent's security, so that way we could use that memory to be able to make more powerful follow-up plays with. And then as far as the options go, I'm only going to be running 4 copies of Atomic Inferno. So Atomic Inferno is just one of the best boost options for this style of deck, just because the added DP and security attack plus is already just allowing our hyper aggressive deck to be, well, even more aggressive, on top of the fact that the potential memory gain if they're trying to block our attacks could also come in handy, acting as a good deterrent or enabler depending on how you look at it and the situation that's there. Then, on top of that, the security ability is just okay, allowing all of our Digimon, even the ones that we haven't played yet, to be able to gain security attack plus, so again, it's just allowing us to be as aggressive with our cards as we can possibly be. And then, as far as the overall game plan and gameplay of the deck goes, it is a pretty simple deck to use just because we're just trying to set up our tamers and be able to make some really powerful hybrid plays. So when it comes to our level 3s, we do have 3 level 3s that allow us to be able to make our deck more consistent. Most of the time, we're going to want to try hard playing these in the early stages of the game to be able to make sure that we could find the parts and pieces that we need for the mid to late stages of the game. And the BT6 Flamemon is the most ideal one we want to utilize in the raising, or really just any of the Flamemons with inheritables we want to utilize in the raising, just to try to gain some benefit off of their abilities when we're utilizing our raising area to be able to digivolve into a level 4. So as far as the most ideal level for us to digivolve into, that's obviously going to be Agunimon, just because he's going to be the cheapest, but most of the time we're actually going to try to set up our tamers so we could try starting to digivolve into our tamers and be more aggressive with them that way. But Agunimon is going to be the best in the raising area just because he's the cheapest, and both of our BurningGreymons will still digivolve for 2 on top of our tamers versus digivolving them for 3 on top of our level 3s versus the 2 that Agunimon has. Plus, both of the BurningGreymons also could still Digivolve on top of our Agunimon when we raise it out, or just keep it in raising to be able to make use of our Agunimon and some of our various when Digivolving abilities and gain the inheritable ability that Agunimon offers to help try to reset up or just play some of our tamers for free, to also have alternative ways to be able to set up our tamers. So I'm just going to be just building a nice dummy stack here just because. And when it comes to the level 5 Digimon, from here, we're never going to want to raise and then start digivolving into a level 5, just because our level 5s have alternative ways that we want to use them to make them more efficient. So most of the time when we're building a stack in raising, we're going to stop at our level 4, so that way we could try to be aggressive with our BurningGreymons, and then we're going to utilize a secondary stack utilizing our BurningGreymons or Agunimons that we have on top of our tamers to be able to turbo into our level 5, utilizing Aldamon, which then allows us to go into a nice level 6 relatively quickly. This is where the Blitz kind of does come in handy, so that way when we're digivolving up the chain, we're actually able to attack even if the memory passes over onto the opponent. But if we have enough memory to spare, that just allows us to be able to utilize EmperorGreymon to be reactive with, just because he can have a whole bunch of DP and then delete the opponent's Digimon, and then we could start swinging with him to deal some pretty decent and consistent damage. The Takuya that we're going to want to use more often than not is going to be the BT7 to digivolve up into, just because we want to try to have at least one Takuya from BT12 to be able to always set us to 3 to make that line of play even possible. And then as far as just some other usability on our cards, this is kind of where the Aldamon from BT12 comes in handy, just because if we have the correct cards in our trash, like the BurningGreymon and Agunimon, then we could just throw them underneath our tamer and digivolve right away into a level 5, and then do that same line of play and just go into a level 6 from there. If we have Bokomon on the field, that's just the extra benefit, allowing us to make these Digivolutions cheap or free, depending on how you're digivolving your tamer into your Digimon. But before I get into some of the other tech and tools that you could think about incorporating into the deck to really start to customize it and make it your own, it's usually first to understand what the core of the deck is and what the deck is attempting to do. So as far as where a good starting place for the deck is, I laid out a nice 42 card core. It does seem like a lot, but a lot of these cards do have some really good synergy, and you're going to want to start customizing the ratios from here and putting in some of the other cards to finish off the deck. But as far as what's really important for the deck, you're going to want each of the Takuyas, just because the deck is already asking for you to be playing Takuyas, and the Takuyas help the deck's overall flow and functionality based on what the different Takuyas are going to be doing. Then you're going to be wanting to run a lot of good consistency tools, so that way you could try to make your deck as effective as you can possibly make it, allowing you to see the parts and pieces that you need when you need it. So Flamemon from BT7, Flamemon from BT4, and the brand new Flamemon from BT12 all are really good consistency tools for us to use. Then on top of that, as far as a good core level 4 hybrid lineup, you're going to want to run the brand new Agunimon paired up with the brand new BurningGreymon and a little bit of the old BT7 BurningGreymon, just because the BurningGreymons have high levels of usability with a lot of our other cards. Then, as far as the most important level 5, you don't have to run any other level 5 other than the BT7 Aldamon, again, mostly for that inheritable and the tempo that it offers us when we're digivolving up our chain, with the brand new EmperorGreymon being the better EmperorGreymon for us to use to try to deal more consistent damage, and Atomic Inferno, again, is just allowing us to be able to deal more damage, with Yokomon being the best egg, just because we're trying to be interacting with the fact that we want to have tamers on our field and set them up. And then as far as some of the other tech and tools that you could think about incorporating into the deck, we do have some pretty decent other cards to just synergize with what Red Hybrids is trying to do. So if you wanted to run a little bit of Floodgates, then we do have Gaussmon to stop the opponent from reducing their Digivolution costs, and we have Solarmon to basically stop them from reducing their play cost. So we kind of can try to start to limit what the opponent can do based on the Floodgates we want to try to prioritize. Then we do have Nemon as another card to be able to reset up our Takuyas, so that way we have even higher levels of reusability on our tamers. Then we do have some of the older Agunimon and BurningGreymons that we could think about running. These cards are a little bit more basic, which is why I don't necessarily think that they're needed, but they still have their own levels of usability. And speaking of other levels of usability, if you do want to try to tech in Ancient Greymon, then you're going to want to run the promo Agunimon, and obviously if you're trying to go for that tech, then you're also going to want to put in Ancient Greymon, just because they still have some pretty decent synergy with how the deck is trying to flow. Then, as far as some other level 7s that we could tech inside of the deck, DeathXmon kind of just goes into anything just because he reduces his own play cost while having a really powerful control ability attached to playing him and while he's on the field. And then we even have Susanomon for us to use like another hybrid, except this time instead of going from our tamer to a level 4 or 5 or 6, this time with Susanomon we could go from a tamer to a level 7. Then, to try to make some more powerful follow-up plays, we do have access at some decent ways to be able to gain extra memory in the form of Gravity Crush and in the form of Red Memory Boost, while Red Memory Boost is another consistency tool for us to use, on top of the fact that we do have some decent removal options that we could think about utilizing in the form of Crimson Blaze and in the form of Fire Drake Strike, just to try to have alternative ways to be able to deal with some of the opponent's threats. And then as far as another tamer that we could possibly run, I think Analog Youth has some really good synergy with how this deck wants to run, just because it's a cheap tamer for us to just hard play. We won't be able to Digivolve on top of it, but the reward for utilizing it is just trying to help fill up our trash while trying to look for any of our Digimons, while also having that potential at gaining a memory when our high-level Digimon gets deleted. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.